Hey everybody, welcome to the Jayda InStitches show. It's time for a crochet quick fix. So let's grab our hooks, grab our yarn, head on over to the craft table, and let's stitch it up together. Today we are going to make a nice long back scrubber with handles. You can vary up the length of this back scrubber to suit your needs, and we'll discuss that in a moment, but you are going to want approximately 100 grams or 227 yards of a medium size 4 yarn. I'm using 100% cotton for this project. I like cotton because it holds up well, it's soft on your skin, and you can toss it in the washing machine and the dryer. You're also going to want a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, measuring tape is pretty handy for a project like this, and today's hook is a 5.5 millimeter, also known as an I or a 9 in the US, a size 5 in the UK. And if you haven't already subscribed, make sure to take a moment to hit that button and the bell so you never miss another quick fix. And once you've got all this together, we can get started. To begin with, we are going to start with a slip knot and a long foundation chain. I am going to chain a length that is 42 inches. This will give me 3 inches for each handle and around 36 inches of back scrubber. If you want to make it a little bit longer, then just continue to add chains until it's the length that you want it to be. Remember to add an additional 6 inches for the handles. If you want it to be shorter, like you're making it for a child, then you can decide on a length, maybe 24 inches, maybe 30 inches, and again, add 6 inches for the handles. So that's 3 inches per handle. Once you have a long enough foundation chain row, and remember, I was going for approximately 42 inches, so that's 36 inches of back scrubber plus 3 inches on either side for handles. So it doesn't matter how long you make it, and it also doesn't matter what your stitch count is. Make sure it's just as long as you need it to be, and don't forget about the handles. I have worked out to 128 chains in my foundation chain row, and we're going to be using the double crochet stitch. So we're going to skip the first 3 chains from the hook and double crochet into the 4th chain. And then you're just going to double crochet all the way back to the beginning. So try not to twist your foundation chain row. You can just work away steadily at this. You don't have to speed through it. Just make sure that every time you get to the next chain, it hasn't twisted on you. And a good way to do that is to just keep sort of squeezing it from the base of the chain, the base of the double crochet or the stitch you just did. Sort of squeeze it out, and that will keep it from twisting on you. Once you've double crocheted all the way back to the beginning, you should have 2 stitches less than the number of the foundation chains you began with. So I began with 128 foundation chains. I have 126 double crochet stitches. But like I said, stitch count doesn't really matter for this project. You just want to maintain your measurements. So as long as you're still somewhere near your beginning measurements, a little over, a little under is fine, then we're good to go. We're going to chain 3. And we're going to do 2 more rows of double crochet. So each row we're going to chain 3 to begin, turn our work. We're going to skip that first stitch because it's already accounted for. We're going to treat that chain 3 as a double crochet. And you're going to work a double crochet into the very next stitch instead. Use the whole stitch. We want this to be nice and sturdy. You can double crochet in each stitch all the way back to the end. You should still have the same stitch count. For me, that will be 126. And then you're going to chain 3, turn, and double crochet all the way back to the beginning again. Be sure when you get to the end of your row that you put your last double crochet in the top of your turning chain. So find the top of that chain 3, you might have to twist it around a little bit, and just stick your hook in there, and that's where you put the last double crochet in your row. Chain 3, turn, don't get ahead of yourself. Chain 3, turn, skip that first stitch because it's accounted for, double crochet into the next stitch, and all the way back across. Once you've completed 3 rows of your back scrubber, it's a good time to lay it down, grab your measuring tape, and measure the width. So currently at 3 rows, mine works out to roughly 2 inches or 5 centimeters. If you want it to be a little wider, add another row of double crochet. If you like it this width, like if you're making it for a child, for example, 2 inches is probably wide enough. But for those of us who are a little bit bigger, we can add another row if you're so inclined. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go for just shy of 3 inches, and I'm going to chain 3, turn my work, skip the first stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, and keep on going. Alright, I've finished my 4th row. That's wide enough for me, and now I'm ready to fasten off. I'm going to leave myself a long tail because I'm going to do some sewing with it. And then I'm going to grab my yarn needle, and I'm just going to weave in the little short tail that started the whole thing back here. So just back and forth through some of those stitches, weave it in until it disappears and it doesn't want to come out. Next, you're going to grab your measuring tape and you're going to measure. You're going to find that little 3-inch mark from the middle, or from sort of measure in 3 inches, just sort of fold it. Doesn't have to be exact. What you're doing is creating a 3-inch fold over that's just enough that you can get a few fingers in there. Now we're going to sew it into place. So we're going to thread up that long tail that we left behind, and we're just going to stitch through pieces of the stitches on the back scrubber and a piece of the edge of the stitch of the fold over. So this does not have to be really tidy. What's more important is that it's really firm, because there's going to be a lot of yanking on this particular seam, as that's where you're going to have your hands sort of hooked into the big loop that's created at the end of both ends here actually. And so all of the strain on the piece of fabric is going to be right here on these seams. So make sure that the seam is nice and secure. If that means you need to sew all the way down and then all the way back, go ahead and do that. Alright, I have sewn all the way down and all the way back again, and there's really not any sort of sewing showing through to the back. It's all mostly up and down that seam, but like I said, it doesn't have to be super tidy. What's important is that it's nice and strong so that we have a nice grippable, I guess, little slot to put our hands in. Once you're done, you're going to create a little knot, because we don't want our sewing unraveling. And then you can just poke your needle through to the back and weave it back and forth across some of those stitches until you've either woven it in, if you've got a little bit left over, or once you've gone back and forth a few times, you can just trim any excess. Basically, you don't want it to come undone. Once you've got one side done, it's time to do the other side. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to grab our measuring tape, measure in approximately 3 inches from the end, and flip it over. The other thing you can do is just measure it again once you've got it flipped over. You want approximately 3 inches. It could be a little more, a little less. Then you're going to cut yourself a nice long length of yarn. It's about the same amount that you left as a tail on the other side. And we're going to knot it. So we're just going to join it first, maybe in the top corner. Just make a nice tight knot. I like to double knot things so they don't undo. You can always weave in that little short tail later. And then you're going to do exactly the same thing that you did on the other side. You're going to sew all the way down, and if that's not sturdy enough, all the way back up. Once you're done, same thing as the other side, we're going to make a knot, pass our yarn through to the back, and then just weave it back and forth through some of those stitches until your yarn either disappears or you've got it in there well enough it's not going to come undone, and you can trim any excess. Once you've got both sides folded over and sewn down so you've got both of your little handles to grab, you're all done. This is a nice long back scrubber. So this is really great for scrubbing your back. The longer the better if you're of a larger individual or you have flexibility issues like I do. Sometimes my shoulders don't want to push all the way back, so it's easier for me to be able to grab something that's really long and scrub back and forth across my back, kind of like you would with a towel when you're getting all dried off. This is also really great for people who have trouble bending over. You can scrub the bottoms of your feet without having to reach all the way down. So there's a lot of great uses for a long scrubber in the shower, especially one that has a couple of handles. And I hope you enjoyed making that along with us this week. That's it for our little quick fix. I hope you had fun, and we'll see you soon here on the Jayda and Stitches show. Until then, stay safe, stay crafty, and have an awesome week, everybody. Bye!
Hi, everybody. Mr. InStitches here. Thank you for watching today. Here are some of our other videos you might be interested in. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.